This is a CBC podcast.
This is Maritime Noon. Coming up today on the phone-in, hot summer getaways in the Maritimes.
I don't think it's as touristy as other places, but incredibly beautiful and really great for seeing like rare birds, talking to amazing locals, and just the best sunsets.
What are your maritime vacation plans? That's coming up today on Maritime Noon. But first, the border between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick looks a lot different today than it did yesterday at this time. Wednesday turned out to be a difficult day for truckers and other travelers who needed to cross the provincial border. Protesters blocked the Trans-Canada Highway, expressing their anger over new COVID isolation rules brought in by Nova Scotia. The blockade was cleared by RCMP last night, but the short protest had a big impact on some people's health care. John Wright is Health Services Director and Site Lead at the Cumberland Regional Health Care Centre in Amherst, Nova Scotia, and he is on the line. Hi, John.
Good afternoon, Bob.
So just how far-reaching was the impact of that blockade on people's health care?
So we had numerous appointments that had to be canceled and rescheduled yesterday, upwards of 110 appointments. These appointments ranged from diagnostics, your CTs, your X-rays, your echoes, mammography, as well as some heart tests, some breathing tests, our surgical clinics, prenatal clinics, some very time-sensitive tests did need to get rescheduled yesterday.
Rescheduled for today or then further down the road now as a result of this?
So the patients that we had to reschedule and cancel yesterday, we will work as hard as we can to get them rescheduled in a timely way. Some may have their appointments today, but certainly not all of them, and it will take us likely about a week to catch up on the backlog caused by yesterday.
What about workers? We did hear that there was some effort to get doctors and nurses through the line to get them to their jobs, but what was the overall impact on that front?
Well, the impact in terms of our operations yesterday, I'm very fortunate. We have a very dedicated, flexible, patient-focused team, so they're able to step into roles that are a little non-traditional for them just to support our care needs in the building. However, we did have numerous employees that were either incredibly delayed in their arrival to work, some upwards of 3.5 to 4 hours. Well, we had some other team members that were not allowed to cross the border because they didn't fit the description of a nurse or a physician. And as you can imagine, as we've worked through the pandemic and all the waves that COVID has brought with it, it was quite demoralizing for some of our employees to have to explain why they're an essential healthcare worker. People
like technicians, for example, they weren't able to get through?
Yes, I had a few respiratory therapists that were quite delayed in their arrival. I had ward clerks that were not permitted arrival, and some cardiology technologists, some medical imaging professionals. All either were not permitted, or after 4 hours of waiting, we had to make alternate arrangements.
So I'm just trying to imagine what that was like at the hospital yesterday. As someone who was there and trying to stick handle all of this, what was the day like?
Yesterday had some significant operational challenges, and our team really rallied together to help support the needs of the patient population we did need to serve. So that did mean that we had to go to just about essential services yesterday. So that's why we had to cancel most of our outpatient procedures. So that way we were positioned to respond to any of the emergent care needs that our patients would have presented with.
And I know you're based in Amherst, but generally speaking, I know we also heard about some concerns at the IWK. What can you tell us about that?
What I can share is some of our staff members were in these lineups with patients that were waiting to attend appointments throughout the province. And some of the stories that were shared with our staff are quite disheartening. There was a few babies that were waiting to go to the IWK. There was some surgical patients that weren't able to make it in. So this was relatively far-reaching, not only for my centre, but for the province as a whole.
What did the road blockade then teach you or remind you about the vulnerability of the healthcare system?
The blockade was a reminder that we do have procedures in place as an institution and an organization to handle protests such as these or the inability of staff to attend work. We have a very dedicated and flexible team that are able to support the care needs in the building. Our team really rallied together. They were checking on various units. Some of our workers that don't typically work in the ER would have went through the ER to see if they needed support. And again, it is a difficult experience for us, and having to work through that patient experience with them. There were some time-sensitive tests that needed to be rescheduled, and some of these diagnostic tests, searching for anything from heart disease to cancer. So it did have some impacts on our patients.
Okay, well, we appreciate very much you explaining a little bit what it was like on the inside, working through all of this. John, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity, Bob.
That's John Wright. He is Health Services Director and the site lead at the Cumberland Regional Healthcare Centre in Amherst. Well, many listeners got in touch with us yesterday following our coverage of the highway blockade. We're going to play some of that feedback as well as read some emails. We apologize. We can't play it all or get to them all because of the sheer volume, but here's a taste, starting with a call to our answering machine.
Tim Sullivan calling from Bedford. Look, there may be a fourth wave, unfortunately, and that's a scary thought that we may get the Brazilian or the one that comes from India into Nova Scotia. Regardless, Dr. Strange's done a great job till now, but people are tired. They don't want to hear about shutdowns anymore. Businesses will not be able to take a forced shutdown. So there has to be another mechanism to get control of this. And this voluntary testing doesn't work. It has to be mandatory. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to have to come up with a kit or something that gives results within half an hour. They say the rapid test is not sufficient. Well, they're going to have to come up with some way to verify tests. So when somebody comes off an airplane, it's not voluntary, it's mandatory. Going home and self-isolating is no good, because even if you go home and self-isolate and you have the virus and you haven't been tested, then you infect your whole family. Your whole family goes out in the community and spreads it. That's what happened with the second and third wave. So we're repeating the same mistake again. And people have toed the line here in Nova Scotia. I'm very proud of them, but they're tired now. And you cannot just simply have a circuit breaker or lockdown every time a virus spreads, because businesses are going to start going bankrupt. They already are. So you got to find a new mechanism. So the new mechanism is mandatory testing. And if you test positive, you have to be quarantined somewhere, either in a hotel or in a construction camp that's set up at the border or whatever, or given the option to go back where you came from. But, I've got people calling me from BC and relatives saying, what are you guys doing down there? Like, we got 2 vaccinations. We're fully vaccinated. Why do we have to self-isolate? How are you testing, right? So the way they've been handling it till now has worked, but now that's done. Got to find a new way to do it. Call EMO. Those guys are sitting out there waiting for the next hurricane, volcano, or earthquake. Get them involved. Get some people involved. What's another $10 million? We're so far down that rabbit hole now as far as money goes. Who cares? Hire the people. Mandatory testing. That's what has to happen. Thanks, everybody. Love your show. Take care.
And thank you for that call. Here are portions of some of the many emails we received. Myra Bars in LaHave, Nova Scotia writes, the people who shut down the border between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick should be angry at Blaine Higgs, not Ian Rankin. Higgs is the one who recklessly changed the rules without consulting the rest of the Atlantic bubble, putting his unvaccinated or partially vaccinated citizens at risk of infection by the Delta variant. Susan Doucette Hutchinson writes, the woman Brett Ruskin interviewed who admitted she is traveling to Ontario and not following protocols. She's the reason we need to be this careful. She's unbelievably selfish. They have her name. She needs a juicy fine. Beverly Burlock on the south shore of Nova Scotia writes, if those were black or Indigenous people protesting with a blockade on a major highway, they would have been forcibly removed in an instant. And the MLA, who was heavily involved, is a disgrace. Andy Gillis in East Margarettsville, Nova Scotia writes that he's concerned the border shutdown is an example of what he calls American-style extremism. He says, like many Nova Scotians, I watched with growing alarm the complete blockade of the NS-NB border by a tiny group of very misguided individuals who do not represent the vast majority of our people. To shut down the only highway link with the rest of the country is a wild overreaction to what is actually only a short delay in the eventual easing of travel restrictions. But Janet Ratliff in the village of Gagetown in New Brunswick writes, "The thing that really has me wondering is why Nova Scotia's Premier does not seem to believe that 2 weeks after getting the second vaccine shot that people not only have very little chance of developing COVID, they also have very little chance of infecting anyone. At the very least, he should reconsider the need for these people to have a test and isolate until the result is known." Well, thank you to everybody who got in touch. Anytime you have feedback to share, we'd like to hear it. You can leave a message at 1-800-565-5463. Our email is marnoon@cbc.ca. Well, this week on the show, we also talked about homelessness in the Maritimes. We heard from a homeless teenager, a homeowner, and a street navigator in Halifax. They all agreed more supports, beginning with housing, are needed. And after hearing from them, we received this call.
Hi, how are you? My name is Patricia Stevens-Brown, a coordinator with the Sackville Area Warming Centre in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. We, over the past couple of years, have commenced to operate a drop-in overnight from December till April into May, 4 nights a week. And this past year, we've been extremely challenged with finding any housing for anybody who has come to the center and asked for some help. We currently, have people living in Sackville who are looking for housing, can't find anything appropriate. There's been families since last September. There's people presently moving out to the woods into a tent. And, talking with our counselor here in Sackville over the last couple of years about the housing situation, which has grown worse. And we still don't have any affordable housing here in Sackville, Lower Sackville, Middle, anywhere. And the rents are climbing, and it is atrocious. I totally iterate everything that Eric Johnson has said with regard to the peninsula and the approaches that are needed in order to help these folks that find themselves in dire straits for one reason or another. Thank you.
And thank you for getting in touch. One of our phone-ins this week was about Canada Day, and we asked you for your views on the idea of cancelling or adapting Canada Day celebrations in light of the discovery of the remains of 215 children at the former residential school in Kamloops. And as we're hearing today, more remains have been discovered at a former residential school near Regina, Saskatchewan. Some cities, such as Victoria, have already decided to cancel Canada Day events. Here's an email from Jackie Barkley, who writes, "It's a great idea to cancel celebrations on Canada Day. The day is a day of rest, can be also a day of fun, family, friendship, and also a day of learning about the peace and friendship treaties. It's time to end the sentimentalizing of our history and have a reality check about anti-black racism and treatment of all racialized persons." That's an email from Jackie Barkley. And Madeline Embray writes, "Maybe we can love our Mi'kmaq community members on Canada Day by purchasing some incredible art, music, or services created by them. We can also take some time to celebrate a better vision of tomorrow by making a commitment on Canada Day to write a politician asking for them to make immediate plans to take action on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations." And that is part of an email from Madeline Embray.
You're listening to Maritime Noon on CBC Radio 1, 97.1 FM, Mill Village, Nova Scotia.
And it is 20 minutes after 12 o'clock. So travel between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick was the big story yesterday with that protest blocking the Trans-Canada Highway. With that over and restrictions eventually relaxing further, you may be thinking about vacation plans for the summer. Are you longing to feel the sand between your toes on Cavendish Beach? Maybe driving Cape Breton's scenic Cabot Trail or gathering around a campfire in New Brunswick's Fundy National Park? The Maritimes has endless staycation opportunities, and those in the tourism industry are counting on locals to get out and about. So today we are asking, What are your maritime staycation plans with the expectation of COVID-19 restrictions continuing to ease over the summer months? We'd love to hear from you today from all three maritime provinces. The number is 1-800-565-1940. Our email is marnoon@cbc.ca, or you can tweet at us at CBC Maritime Noon. And joining us to talk about some summer maritime experiences is travel blogger Cailin O'Neill. She is behind the travel website Nova Scotia Explorer and is also popular on Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram. Cailin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. So we're going to be also talking with Stephanie McQuaid of PEI. She's on the line and then better known on Instagram as the Redhead Roamer. So Stephanie, welcome to you as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So this is kind of like a list we're going to go through here today, and some shared experiences hopefully we'll hear as we go through the next 40 minutes or so. Cailin, why don't you tell us a little bit more, though, first about what you do as a travel content creator?
Well, I've been a travel blogger and content creator for the past 12 years, traveling to over 50 countries. And just before the pandemic happened, I happened to purchase NovaScotiaExplorer.com, and then I was grounded here at home and just am focusing on that website. And so I travel around Nova Scotia and or the world, just creating content through photographs and videos of all of the great food there is to eat here, all of the lobster, places to stay, things to explore and do.
All right. Well, your timing may be impeccable, Cailin, because people are still kind of in that mindset of sticking closer to home than flying off to far-flung places in the world. So why don't we just talk about a couple of places that come top of mind to you when it comes to places in Nova Scotia that you know so well because of the work that you do. What's one on the top of your list?
Well, one of my most favorite places is only opened in the past few months, and it's called Valley Sky, and it's luxury glamping in a geodesic dome. They now officially have 2 domes open, and they're located in Wolffield, just past Luckett. And it's almost like living in the middle of nature in this cool dome, but it has all of the amenities you want. There is a hot tub, a full kitchen, a full bathroom, and beds, so it's kind of like camping, but in high fashion style. And they are such a wonderful place to stay. There are 2 domes right now, and in the next couple of years, they'll have 12 total. Yeah,
and the glamping thing is kind of catching on, I think, around the region. There are other examples of places that are sort of that mix between maybe kind of a bed and breakfast field or maybe motel feel with the camping feel. Something of a harder shell over the top of you, just in case it does rain when you're out there. But whether you're glamping or camping, a lot of people want to spend time outdoors, and especially for campsites, there's been a real run on those, right, Cailin?
Yeah, that's correct. On the first day for Parks Canada opening up their websites, I think there were 15,000 people online trying to book just for Keji-Makujik alone.
Yeah.
So it's been extremely popular, and they have some new authentics and different type of living accommodations that you can rent there now, aside from having your own tent. They also have the backcountry camping as well. Mm-hmm. But if you want to stay a bit closer to home and not go too far, I also recommend checking out Shuby in Dartmouth. They have great camping there, and you can go canoeing and kayaking and paddleboarding on the lakes. And they even have a Lemon Dogs stand that now has meat-free burgers, which apparently this year are really amazing.
Okay, yeah. I've stayed at some of those authentics at Keji. So it is sort of that glamping sort of, you're kind of roughing it, but not as much as if you were in a little pup tent.
Right. Like you still have to share bathrooms, but you get your own place and you're not going to get wet in the rain.
Yeah. All right, Stephanie, let's head to the PEI map here for a minute. You're the Redhead Roamer. So what's a place on PEI that you'd like to tell people about?
Yeah, so when I was thinking about what to tell you guys, I like to plan my vacations, my staycations, kind of with an activity in mind. So I wanted to share with you guys some of my favorite activities that we offer here in PEI. So one of my absolute favorites is disc golfing. It's become very popular over the last few years on PEI. We actually have held the Canadian Nationals for a few years because we have such incredible courses here. So if you've never gone disc golfing, it's similar to golfing in the sense that you have an 18-hole course, and instead of having different putters and things. You have discs like frisbees, but they're specific. Like there's a putter, a driver, a mid-range, and you throw it into a chain basket. And it's such an enjoyable activity. You get to go for a nice walk in through the woods, and you have a little mission as you go. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a terrible golfer, but I have been able to figure out disc golfing a lot quicker. So it's such a great activity to do. And we've got tons of courses here. We've got Hillcrest Farms, like I said, in Bonshaw, Huckett in Kincora, another one in Rose Valley, and actually Parks Canada just opened a temporary one in Cavendish Grove, which is their former Rainbow Valley site, until July 11th. So you can rent discs from the Visitor Information Center, and each hole has a theme of the old rides and attractions of Rainbow Valley. So it also appeals to that nostalgic for those who miss and loved Rainbow Valley so much.
Yes, spent many a day there myself, and my golf game is not that great, Stephanie, so maybe I should just switch to disc golfing based on your recommendation.
I find it is a quicker learning curve than golf, I've found anyway.
Okay. So speaking of activities, you want to talk as well about Fortune River, because there's just a beautiful chance to get out on the water on Fortune River.
Yes, absolutely. Last year, this was my favorite thing we did on PEI the whole summer. We hooked up with Fortune River Charter. They offer 2-hour pontoon boat rides, and you can do them at sunset, or you can do them during the day and go seal watching, and it's a beautiful experience. You go down the Fortune River. Chad, who owns them, has so much knowledge and lots of history about the area. It's actually got lots of old ties to old Broadway back in the day. Fortune was kind of the go-to vacation spot for all these famous actors and players of the time. But it's just so much fun. And they also have a sister business called Paddles on the River, where you can rent kayaks and paddleboards if you want to kind of paddle yourself up the river instead of taking a boat.
Okay. And biking, I mean, you know, if you're not a really advanced biker, maybe you don't have the strength maybe to tackle some of the hills in other parts of the region. PEI is so flat, you know, the nice rolling hills at most. So there's some nice biking opportunities on the island.
Absolutely. We're so fortunate on PEI that when we abandoned our railway lines in 1989, the province turned them into a tip-to-tip trail. So in total, there's over 449 kilometers, and you can actually go tip-to-tip from Tignish to Elmira, 273 kilometers, or you can do little tiny chunks of it. It's got mile markers the whole way. It's rolled stone, dusted. It's very well maintained. And like you said, because it's the old train tracks, there's no big hills at all, just these little gradients, and it's wonderful. It's a great way to see the island.
Mm-hmm. What about at Brookvale? Are they doing motocross or, you know, sort of the more rugged cycling, biking part there still?
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I do know that they have some like cross-country biking in the off-season. So when they're not using the ski hill, they've got some really cool trails there for mountain biking.
All right. So if you are a little more adventurous, then, or maybe like a faster run, that's an option for you as well.
Absolutely. A lot bumpier.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're talking about places in the Maritimes to enjoy this summer season, and you can call now 1-800-565-1940 or email us marnoon@cbc.ca, or you can tweet at us at CBC Maritime Noon. We're also going to be talking about places in New Brunswick as well in just a moment, but first, Sandy Smith is standing by, and he has a quick look at the news headlines. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Bob. The MLA who encouraged people to block the border between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick is now out of the PC caucus in Nova Scotia. Party leader Tim Houston says Elizabeth Smith McCrossan will never run for the party again. A political scientist says the blockade this week stems from a breakdown in communications between the Premier's offices in Fredericton and Halifax. And 35 people are out of their homes after an apartment building fire near Charlottetown's airport early this morning between 3 and 4 a.m. Details coming up at 1 o'clock, Bob.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. 1-800-565-1940. We're asking about your favorite places to spend summer vacations in the Maritimes, and my guests today are travel bloggers Caelan O'Neill and Stephanie McQuaid, better known as the Redhead Roamer on Instagram. And I want to bring another voice in here, this time from New Brunswick. Jenna Morton is a writer. She's a mother of 3 young children and the voice behind the parenting website Pickle Planet Moncton. Also happens to be a former CBC reporter. Jenna recently created a list of family-friendly, low-cost staycation ideas in New Brunswick, and she joins us to talk about some of those. Hi, Jenna.
Hello, Bob.
Nice to hear from you again.
Yes, lovely to be on Maritime Noon again.
So, wow, I know this has been a bit of a group effort for you, right? It's not just you, but others who have sort of been compiling this list.
Yes, I started to kind of work on the list last year when we were traveling around the province, and I was very quickly coming up with lots of ideas, but I knew there were a lot of places I hadn't been with my family yet. And so I reached out to a friend of mine, Pauline, and she and her family have a website called Dogme's Adrift. They do more hiking trips than my family does, and they do things in a little bit different fashion. So we teamed up, and we spent a couple of days sitting down together and going through all of our pictures and all the places we'd both been to come up with a list of 101 places in New Brunswick we thought would be great to go with kids this summer.
Okay, so kid tested then. That's the stamp of approval that I should also keep in mind here as we go through. What's an example? Because really you try to look at sort of low-cost things to do. Maybe it's a formal tourism attraction. Maybe it's just an activity to take in. What's an example?
Exactly. Yeah, we try to make a good mix of things. So a perfect example would be, playing in the treetops. So if you can't, get out to one of the fantastic places we have in the province, we have a couple spots that are run by Trigo. We have Timbertop Adventures down in St. John. We have a new one that's opening near Petitcodiac here. Or you can just go to your backyard and make an adventure of what tree can you find? Who can climb the highest? It doesn't have to be a big adventure outside of your own community to really have a great summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that said, if you were looking for something to sort of hit the road and take in something that's perhaps a little bit more formal or at least laid out for you, what's an example?
We spent a lot of time last summer on the Acadian Peninsula in New Brunswick, and I would highly, highly recommend that to anyone who hasn't done it or anyone who has done it in the past to do it again. If you're into, you guys were just talking about the bike trails in PEI, there's fantastic biking trails all around the peninsula. There's, oh my goodness, the bakeries and the cheese shops and the food. My friend Pauline especially will laugh because I very much focus on food when we go on these trips. And we had, scallop burgers and lobster rolls with your feet in the sand in a restaurant on Nisku Island. It's just pretty much the most maritime thing you can think of.
And an aquarium up there too, right?
There is, yes. One of the two that we have in New Brunswick, we actually hit both of them last summer, and they are both fantastic fun. If you've got kids, they, in other years, they have lots of touch tanks where you can really get hands-on. Things are a little different with pandemic rules, but you can still watch them feed the seals, you can see the animals, and it's so much fun. The kids love them. The one in Shippagan has this little bubble that you can kind of go under and go up and put yourself in the middle of all the fish swimming around you. It's really great.
Okay, you also highlight some small museums in your list of places to check out.
Yes, museums are kind of my personal favorite. And I really love breaking down that kind of stereotype where people think of, must-be archives. Museums today are so much more interactive. We have a lot in the Maritimes that are kind of open-air seasonal ones. So the Albert County Museum, that's in, the Hopewell Rocks area. A lot of people know about Hopewell Rocks, but just across from it, there's this massive museum complex with beautiful, beautiful buildings, including, the Albert County Courthouse was built in 1904 by one of the Reed brothers. And the Reed brothers were known for the architects whose buildings withstood the San Francisco earthquakes. We have these incredible things that they're wonderful to learn about, and they're also accessible enough that if you have little kids who like to run around, you can get in and see these places without worrying about, interrupting the quiet that you might envision in, an art gallery or something like that. They're very accessible.
And I know you talk about King's Landing and Le Pays de la Seguin as well.
Yes,
those are two great places to run a little wild.
They are, and Beaubears Island, we were just up there. The staff there was lucky enough to, they were kind enough to treat us to a bit of an early opening. They just opened this week, but we were able to go up before and go out to the island. what other museum do you get to take a ferry ride?
Well, you know, I feel like there should be a whole section just on ferries, don't you think, in the Maritimes? Because
definitely.
it is such a highlight for, you know, parents as well as kids.
Oh, and they're magnificent. There's so many of them throughout the provinces.
Yeah, from the very short trips, like I'm thinking Englishtown and Cape Breton, to obviously the crossing to PEI, Little Narrows and Cape Breton as well. And then, so that's a real highlight, too. Good chance to get the kids out of the car, too, isn't it, and sort of stretch their legs?
Exactly. And, you know, going over to the Kingston Peninsula here in New Brunswick, or, you know, if you can really make a big trip of it and go to Deer Island or Campobello, those ferries, it's like going on a whale watching tour. They're amazing.
Yeah. And speaking about being on the shoreline, just along the Bay of Fundy, you can start searching for fossils or whatever else. It's a real adventure, just spending the time out there.
Oh, it is. There's constantly more and more, you know, little things that are opening up for people to help them, you know, have these experiences. Some people grew up knowing how to do these things. We've lost some of that connection, but more and more people are helping people rediscover those things, and it's fantastic to watch.
Okay, fire a couple more at us, Jenna, before we go along to somebody else. What's another couple of activities or places that you think people should be checking out in New Brunswick?
I am a big fan of people heading up towards the Woodstock area, doing the Heartland Covered Bridge, the longest covered bridge in the world. You know, we've got more than 50 of them that you can visit in New Brunswick, but that one's pretty iconic. And if you're up there, you can go to Covered Bridge Chips. That is on my children's to-do list again this summer for about the fourth time. You go through and you see potato chips being made, and then you get to pick your own flavor at the end, and you get to put the seasoning on the fresh chips. There's not a whole lot better than that. You can go to the Chocolate Museum in St. Stephen. That is on my must-visit list this summer. The Railway Museum in Macadam is just spectacular architecture again. We stopped at 101 just because we had to publish the list. We could have went forever.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got through a few of them here, Jenna, and maybe we'll hear about more just from other people who call in the next little while that we have here. So this is a good running start, though. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, always my pleasure.
That's Jenna Morton, who is a writer. She's a mother of 3 young children and the voice behind the parenting website Pickle Planet Moncton. With some help, came up with 101 places or activities you can get involved in New Brunswick during the summer vacation period. And hopefully we're going to hear from more as we go along here. 1-800-565-1940 is the number to call. We also have Kaylin O'Neill and Stephanie McQuaid, 2 travel bloggers, one from Nova Scotia and the other from PEI. So let's go to the phone lines right now. Leslie Allen is calling from Advocate Harbour in Nova Scotia. Hi, Leslie.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just felt it was a crime while I was listening on the way to work, to not mention my home county of Cumberland County, especially considering we were in the news recently.
Okay, yeah. Well, tell us something more about it then, because that is a great area to explore if you're speaking just about the coastline itself.
Exactly. Well, I'm calling from the Parsboro Shore, which is the collective area of Parsboro to Advocate and a little bit of Five Islands. And it's absolutely gorgeous here. I'm sitting here on my way and just looking at Cape Split, Cape Blomidon, all the way to Kingsport that was mentioned earlier, all the way to Spencer's Island. It's a beautiful drive. And there's more than I could possibly count in a full half hour here of things to do. There's the Geological Museum in Parsboro. There's the Age of Sail Museum in Porkerville. There's Cape Chignecto for the hikers. There's world-famous, literally world award-winning famous food at the Wild Caraway in Advocate Harbour. I could sit here for hours ranting about how beautiful the Parsboro Shore is.
Well, it is beautiful indeed. And yeah, great area to go looking for those fossils I was mentioning earlier.
Exactly. If you go to the Fundy Geological Museum, they'll actually offer tours that will take you down to the area called Wasson's Bluff, where you're almost guaranteed to find a fossil every time you go. And it's great for the kids because, they're hunting for dinosaurs.
Yeah. Now, will you travel outside your neck of the woods, Leslie, this summer yourself?
Last year we went to PEI up to Northport and that corner of the woods with the Railway Museum up there, and it was absolutely gorgeous. We were planning to take a trip up to Newfoundland to see Gros Morne, the glacier, Lance Meadows, the whole kit and caboodle, but unfortunately COVID got in the way of that.
Well, you may be able to get there eventually, I guess.
Yep, the plan is when hopefully the lockdowns and border restrictions and everything calms down, that the in-laws coming from BC over the fall, we might take a trip up to Cape Breton and do the whole loop.
Yeah. Well, okay. But in the meantime, you've got a beautiful area to explore right where you are in the Advocate Harbour area.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend anyone to come see this hidden gem because we are a little bit off the beaten path, but it's certainly worth the trip for anyone.
All right. Thanks for telling us about it, Leslie.
You're welcome. Have yourselves a good trip.
Yeah, and have a great summer.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
We're talking about summer vacations in the Maritimes as people turn their attention to the next couple of months. And with restrictions lifting, where will you be traveling in the Maritimes? What do you want to explore? Our guests, our travel blogger, Caelan O'Neill and Stephanie McQuaid. And I'm going to go back to Stephanie just quickly right now. So what's an example? You're on PEI, Stephanie. Just having heard what Leslie was talking about and before him, Jenna, what would you like to add to the list?
Well, we can't talk about PEI without bringing up our amazing beaches and our thousands of kilometers of coastline. We're so spoiled here. I always say, when it's a beach day, we get so many to pick from. Do you want South Shore? Do you want North Shore? Do you want to bring your dog? Do you want to go swimming? You know what I mean? So you got to come for the beaches. Some of my favorites are Thunder Cove, Lakeside, Canoe Cove on the South Shore. But it's always fun to kind of get in the car and find a new one because they are unlimited here.
Indeed. I'm wondering as well, even in Nova Scotia, beautiful beaches in Nova Scotia, what would you throw out there for maybe a first-timer, maybe either from New Brunswick or PEI that wants to explore a Nova Scotia beach? Do you want to give us some thoughts on that? That one's for you, Caelan, obviously, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Hi. So obviously we have over 13,000 kilometers of coastline here in Nova Scotia and tons of gorgeous beaches. I would say check out Lawrencetown and Martinique, especially if you want some bigger waves to play in, maybe try some surfing.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the South Shore is filled with beautiful beaches like Somerville and Crescent and even just Queensland Beach, which is kind of close to amenities that you need, and it's right off to the highway, so it's beautiful to check out. But we have endless amounts of beaches here.
Yeah, and on the North Shore, for example, Melmerby Beach.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Spot.
That's right. And also I want to mention about Advocate Harbour. There's also a lighthouse there that has a lighthouse keeper's house that you can actually go and stay in, and that's high on my bucket list for this summer.
Okay. Well, Blanchard Duke writes, hiking to the top of Lewis Hills in Newfoundland, staying and exploring for a few days, try gold plant panning as well, I think is what that was supposed to say. Maybe it is dry gold plant panning. I don't know. I think you need some water to be able to pan gold. But anyway, so if you're heading over to the Rock, we just heard some talk from Leslie there that would like to get over there. That's another activity there. We'd like to hear what your plans are for the maritime vacation, or maybe it is an Atlantic region vacation. Either way, 1-800-565-1940 is the number to call, and our email is marnoon@cbc.ca. Let's talk zip lines for a minute here. I know certainly in Nova Scotia, Caelan, there's a zip line, isn't it, down in the Windsor area?
Yes, there is one in the Windsor area, and I believe there's also a few in Cape Breton. And I think where they're building that new tower, there's going to be a very cool one as well. I personally choose to watch the zipliners versus do it myself. But there's definitely some adventurous activities that you can find all over the province.
Yeah, maybe a little too adventurous for kids, I guess, for the most part.
Well, yeah, I think maybe 10 years and up would probably be the better age to be doing that, yeah.
Yeah. Stephanie, any ziplining on PEI? There's one in Cornwall, right?
Yes, that's a wonderful spot. And I think it's similar to what Callan said. I think it is around 10 and up. We did that last year. I think it's called Rise and Climb. It's a beautiful spot. There's lots of different obstacles to climb over, more like a obstacle course than a zip line, but it's awesome, a great way to spend the day.
Zip lining, yes, it's maybe a little too fast for some people, but there's obviously playgrounds that are sort of modified zip lines that are always kind of nice as well. So that again seems to be a bit of a trend catching on. Either you're a standalone operation zip line, or you're sort of incorporating that kind of a feel into playgrounds. Let's okay. That was an open rhetorical comment, maybe. Let's go back to the phone lines. Mike Dalglish is on the line from Moncton. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Hi. What are your maritime vacation plans?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm actually not traveling in the Maritimes this summer because I'm allowed to go see family in other parts of the country now. And I don't think anybody's called in and said that yet.
No, well, because we're talking about maritime vacations, I guess. But so you're going to forego a maritime vacation?
I'm curious why we would even talk about that now that the borders are opening and we're allowed to travel elsewhere again. We did all that last summer.
Right, but there's a whole lot more to do, Mike, don't you think?
I think it's been a frustrating day for me listening to your show. There's a lot of fear going on about things like Delta variant, everything else. It's time to move forward for me personally and actually travel, actually go see my family in other parts of the country and actually do things that I want to do, not things that are, my limited choices.
Ah, okay. So where are you going? Where else in the country?
Well, next weekend I'll be traveling to Ontario to visit my parents and my grandmother. From New Brunswick. That's allowed. I'm not breaking any quarantine rules or anything like that. I've been following rules all along. I've been supportive of the science. I'm not like an anti-mask, anti-vax, anything like that. But I'm done living my life in fear, and I'm at the point where like nobody's going to die from not having a ventilator. So it's time to move on with our lives and do what we want to do, not what we can do.
Okay, well, I think you're kind of mischaracterizing our show here today a little bit, Mike, because we're just asking, as you're getting out and you want to do some vacationing in the Maritimes, where in the Maritimes specifically will you be going? So that aside, your thoughts aside there, was there any place you went even last year that you want to talk about?
I went over New Brunswick last year. I went to PEI last year. It was phenomenal. I love traveling the Maritimes, don't get me wrong. I just don't understand why we're talking about that exclusively when we're finally at the point where we can do other things.
All right. Well, you broke that. You broke that exclusivity right now, Mike.
I apologize if my comment not exactly appropriate for your show. I guess I called earlier on when you were still talking about Nova Scotia, and we're not talking about that anymore. So, just as far as my plans go, I'm ready to travel outside.
Yeah.
I certainly won't be going to Nova Scotia after they just canceled my plans again over what I see as political, but we're not talking about that anymore, so I will not be going there, I'll tell you that much.
All right. Well, have a great trip to Ontario. Mike?
Thank you. And I'll follow the rules, and I'm sure your listeners are still going to blame me the next time there's a COVID case.
Well, I don't know about that either. But okay, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for calling. That's Mike in Moncton. 1-800-565-1940. We are talking about maritime vacations specifically, not for any other reason except that it's a great area to explore. And hey, the name of the show is called Maritime Noon, so we thought it was appropriate. Let's go back to the phone lines, though. Sue is calling from Falmouth in Nova Scotia. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Hi.
I wasn't expecting to get on so soon. I usually have to hold.
Well, there you go.
Anyway.
It's your day.
There you go. My day. I was thinking about Kings County beaches because we have a lot in Kings County and Hants County, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I hear an echo. I don't know if you do or not.
No, I don't hear the echo, but...
Okay, great. See, there's Grand Prairie Beach, right, and Kingsport Beach, and then you get all the way out to Bloomington,
right.
And they're all pretty much white beaches, right, and sandcastle beaches.
Mm-hmm.
And now that the Falmouth Lake is open, there's all kinds of sand and beaches to walk all the way up the Avon River.
Yes, and I'm trying to remember where I was walking along last summer. I thought it was Kingsport Beach, but maybe it wasn't. A very long walk all the way out past, and there was like a stone structure still half connected to the land, sort of half on its own. But it wasn't. Yeah. It was more kind of on the other side of Wolfville, actually.
Well, probably that was up to Bloomington direction.
Yeah, up towards the Bloomington direction for sure, but it's something... I thought it was Kingsport, but I must be wrong.
Well, if Jeff went out and it was one night with a paddle board out there at Perot,
mm-hmm.
and there's an island out there. Right?
Yes, yeah. And so what's that like on a paddleboard? Pretty manageable?
Oh, you have to ask Jeff Knight, the supper hour show.
Jeff Douglas on the afternoon show on mainland Nova Scotia.
Correct, he did that.
He would know that area quite well. Yes, because he lives down in that area. Okay.
Well, now that he is. Anyway, but when you go to Grand Pré, it's when you go on a low tide and you walk out the beach and it's rocky and whatever. But the thing is, when the water comes back in, is bath water.
Yes.
Right? When the water's coming back in across some hot sand, it warms up and it's really nice and you can play and lots of shells and it's right there in Grand Pré.
All right. There we go. Grand Pré makes the list.
Yes.
All right.
Anyway, you have a good one.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Sue.
Okay.
Let's head over to Summerside and PEI. Diana LaRiviere is on the line. Hi, Diana.
Hello there. How are you?
Good. What about your maritime vacation this year? What are you planning?
Well, we are planning to stay on the island, but the reason that I'm calling is I heard some of your earlier callers promoting the beautiful beaches that we have, and along all of those beautiful beaches is a beautiful opportunity to have a wedding here on the island.
Okay. So, boy, the planning should have been well underway by now, I guess, if you're trying to squeeze that in for the summer, though. What do you think?
Well, not necessarily. We have over 100 wedding planners on the island. We have over 200 marriage commissioners on the island. Beautiful venues, full service, or from the very simple to the very complex.
Okay,
so that's really all I have to say.
Well, before you go, tell us one quick beach that people shouldn't miss if they head to PEI.
The Argyle Shore.
Hey.
Argyle Shore Provincial Park.
It is a nice one indeed. Yeah. Okay, Argyle Shore.
Beautiful. Yes. And also Sally's Beach, which is more east.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, thanks for the addition to the list, Diana.
All right. Bye now.
All right. Not surprising. A lot of beaches, pretty popular destinations as we make our way into the summer here in the Maritimes. I'm just going to go back to our two guests before we wrap things up here quickly. Kaylin, first with you, a quick suggestion, one more from Nova Scotia. What's another place that you suggest people consider at least as they make their summer plans?
Well, if you've got some extra money burning a hole in your pocket, I definitely recommend people check out the Trout Point Lodge in East Kemptville near Yarmouth. They are a stunning property with the most amazing food, and they have guides that will take you into the woods, and you can do forest bathing, you can go foraging for food, and you can go kayaking as well, and they have a wood-fired hot tub that you can privately book along the river to enjoy if you're a couple traveling. And it's just a stunning property, only opened in the summer months, and I highly recommend people check that out.
All right, so that's added to the list. Stephanie, final word to you. What do you suggest on PEI?
Well, for me, I have never checked off my PEI summer bucket list without going to the Brackley Drive-In. It's just one of my favorite things. You go to see a double bill. We went a few weeks ago and saw Cruella. And you go there, you drive up your car. It's very, a blast from the past. They have the old commercials on in between the movie. Head to the concession stand with the dancing popcorn and everything. And it's just such a classic PEI summer thing to do.
Ah, yes. On a nice summer night, it is very nice. Okay, we'll add that to the list as well. Stephanie, thanks very much for joining us here today and adding to the conversation. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Kaylin, thanks as well to you.
Thank you so much.
Kaylin O'Neill and Stephanie McQuaid, our travel guide guests today. Well, we are ending today's program on a tune I think you'll recognize. It was adapted by Matt Corcoran of PEI. It's right on point with today's discussion. Thanks to Daryl Chasson for bringing it to our attention. I hope you enjoy it. Have a great afternoon.
Hello, I'm not Johnny Cash. However, I'll be taking a well-known Johnny Cash tune, I've Been Everywhere, where he lists 92 different places that he's visited. And I figured I'd give her an little old PEI twist and shake, as I like to call her. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to list off, try to anyway, 97 different places that you can go visit sometime when you're on the island, or if you're from away and you're coming over for a visit this summer, why don't you check a couple of these places out? Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you I've Been Everywhere, PEI edition. Holy smokes. All right. I was sitting in Port Elgin in the traffic line to PEI. On my way from Costco, what a wicked deal on triple ply. A car pulls up beside me, they had their hard top down. I could tell the happy couple were both from out of town. They asked if this was my first time on the island too. I said no, may I suggest some places since you folk are new. I've been everywhere, man, I've been everywhere, man. I've roamed the Red Sands bare, man, seen Green Gables and Dan. You wanna know where I've been, man? Well, I've been everywhere. I've been to Borden, Carlton, Cardigan and Campbellton, Kensington, Wellington, Arlington and Darlington, Brooklyn, Newhan and Afton and Alberton, Milton, Shelton, Kingston, Hebron, Georgetown, Searletown, Charlottetown and Freetown, Portage and Stefanage, St. Louis and St. Louis Bridge. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Roamed the Red Sands bare, man. I've seen Green Gables and Dan. Wanna know where I've been, man? Well, I've been everywhere. It's just me, or is it getting hot in here? Wouldn't mind take a dip in a river somewhere. I've been to Mill River, Vernon River, Murray River, Grand River, Choke River, Hunter River, Dunk River, West River, Bear River, Clyde River, Bell River, Flat River, Morrell, Brudenell, Hillsborough, Fox River, Malpeck, Burdack, Cascabeck, what the heck, Pontle, Crapple, Rustico. There ain't a place I don't know. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Roamed the Red Sands bare, man. I've seen Green Gables and Dan. Wanna know where I've been, man? Well, I've been everywhere. After that dip in the river, I could sure go for I don't know, an ice cream cone or a snack somewhere. There's gotta be a corner store around, isn't there? Well, let's see. I've been to Pools Corner, Province Corner, Cook's Corner, Coleman Corner, Reed's Corner, Days Corner, Bluefield, Bluefield, Elmsford Corner, Albany, T Hill, Larry, Time Valley, Trackety, Elvis, Darnley, Wigan, Brackley, East Point, West Point, Waterford, and Beach Point, Tignish and Cavendish. Talk about a tour swish. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Roamed the Red Sands bare, man. I've seen Green Gables and Dan. Wanna know where I've been, man? Well, I've been everywhere. Holy smokes. I've been to Surrey, Harmony, Travelers Rest, Richmond Sea, Bayside, Summerside, Wilmot Valley, Waterside, Fox Island, Lennox Island, Holman's Island, Oldham Island, Belfast, Dundas, Pottsville, Niminigas, North Cape, West Cape, St. Helens and Kildare Capes, Coed, Basin Head, Montague. How are you? I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Roamed the Red Sands bare, man. I've seen Green Gables and Dan. Wanna know where I've been, man? Well, I've been everywhere. One more time. Woo! I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've roamed the Red Sands bare, man. I've seen Green Gables and Dan. Wanna know where I've been, man? Well, I've been everywhere. Oh, I've been everywhere. Yes, I've been everywhere. Do you want a pen to write that down, or do you got her all up?
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.